Awesome. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the LittleWins podcast, season 2. Let's talk about it. Today, we are going to talk about orthotics with Rob Novak, orthotist and practice manager at Transcend Orthotics. What's up, Rob?
That's correct. You've got it right.
I said it right?
Yeah, 100%. Here to talk orthotics and or prosthetics.
Awesome. How are you? Thanks for being here.
Doing well. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. Always happy to get the word out.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because I was searching for other podcasts, as I already explained to you, off of our recording. I just wanted to be able to speak intelligently on the topic, although my daughter does have orthotics, but to be able to spread the story in all aspects and have an intelligent conversation. I couldn't find a single podcast on the topic.
Well, there you go. Congratulations.
We better get this right.
Mm-hmm.
We better get
We'll start. Hey, we'll put the foundation out there and then we'll take it from there.
That's
How about
right.
that?
I love it. You are my daughter's orthotist.
I am.
And you've been wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. How about all the many times you came over to my house and it was like 4:00, that witching hour?
Yeah.
Like my kids, there's 4 of them, but it feels like 25, right?
We all know this well.
And you're so patient and you're so calm. And I'm sure you've had a whole day yourself. And you just come in and, do the molds and all of that. We'll walk through all of that later too. But I've always really appreciated your calm. And Ava adores you. And that's just, not lost on me. Is everybody's house as crazy as mine, or is it just?
No, yeah, it happens over here too.
Okay.
I have the same crew. It just depends at what moment of the day it is.
Yeah, it ain't easy. It's not
it can get crazy here.
So Rob, let's tell the people. First orthotics podcast ever. What do orthotists do?
Well, orthotists are kind of a blend of careers. So the orthotist is a healthcare professional, but blending ideas of creativity and artistry, engineering in terms of how we support the body, how we create products to support the body, and then in that making clinical healthcare decisions for a person. So this orthotist is a healthcare professional that looks to evaluate a patient, create a plan, and then implement that plan. For an orthotist, we're looking at creating a product that supports a body segment or a joint. Mm-hmm. With that, after we formulate the idea, get the diagnosis right, check the patient for their strength and range of motion and their limitations, and really the most important part, what the goal is. What is it that the patient wants to do? What is it that they're not able to do? And then create this product to improve towards that idea. So are they generally better able to move in a better way? Can we support the body in a way from not letting it get away from us? In a sense, what I'm thinking about is just think about scoliosis. Just think about a tree in your backyard that is tipping, or something that you're trying to support. Well, we don't want it to go too far. We want to help support those segments of the body. So we will basically create a custom device to help support your body.
And that's what I was going to say. It's specific to the individual.
Very specific, very diagnosis specific. Mm-hmm. Each diagnosis does not, you could have the same diagnosis, but it afflicts a person in a different way. So it doesn't mean that one type of product is best fit for that patient with that diagnosis. There is some investigative work that has to happen, mm-hmm. asking a lot of questions and truly listening to what the patient can't do and would like to do better.
And would like to do.
Trying to drive the solution to that. Now, that just doesn't mean it's like this thing. It's the item, this is what you get, and this is how we do it. We might have to work towards a goal. So it might be that we have to start in a certain sense with more product or less product. We don't even know if the patient really wants to wear it. That's the other thing. We can drive a solution, but if it's not going to be used, it's not really the best solution. So sometimes I start working towards something that helps support a body, but it may not be the ultimate goal. It may not be where we want to finish. We have to start somewhere else. That's interesting too.
It's all very interesting, all the many aspects that go into the design, engineering, and the fabrication of each one. It's just from my vantage point with my daughter, the way that, you know, we have the leg length differential and the lifts, and you've worked very closely with our physical therapist and also our occupational therapist, who have both been on the show. And they said something very similar, that, you know, what is the patient or the person, what is their goal? What is it that they want to do? Because again, you know, we could, like you said, you could create something for what you think is what they'd like to do. But if they're not going to wear it, or they don't like it, or whatever, then that's not going to be helpful. But I love that kind of way that, you know, Kelly would say, our physical therapist, I'll just talk to Rob, you know, or, you know, Diane would say, you know, I've noticed that Ava can't do this, or it would be really helpful. And we all put our heads together, and that's super cool. You know, I'm a huge fan of teamwork, but there's an incredible amount of thought that goes into each one of your patients. It's
I
not
think
lost on me.
you hit on a very important point, and I think you're seeing that shift in medicine, is that instead of saying, I have this problem, and you seek a solution from a specialist for that problem, and we say, this is it. You'll hear from more of us now, especially in this like rehabilitative environment, asking what everyone thinks. What's the input from the other players that are involved in this patient's care? I want to know what your physical therapist sees. I want to know what your physical therapist is working on, wants to work on, and what the next goal is. The same thing with the occupational therapist. I want to know what the physician is thinking. If we can come to this collaborative decision, man, everybody wins. Gone are the days of like, okay, Ava has this deficit, I need to give her a brace. You know what it is? This is it. This is what you get. We just do this. It's just us filling that prescription because someone said so. Now there's people that are more willing to listen and share their parts on how my small portion will help the bigger picture. But it's got it, that puzzle piece has got to fit in with all the other unique shapes and interesting parts. And you know what? What's interesting about this is that the darn puzzle piece, the shape changes. The human body changes over time. So you better be very quick to adapt and be creative for a better solution. Because if you just stick with it, that this is the problem, this is the solution, you don't get very far and nothing will change. So over 20 years of doing this, yeah, it's been really awesome to see and work with those that want to collaborate with you to come to the best solution. I know the product, I know some products, but man, I love to be challenged. Hey, have you heard of this? Do you know about this? Have you tried this? I saw a patient with this. I saw this online. I saw this new information. I heard about this. What do you think about that? That's awesome.
Well, and that's the whole purpose of this podcast, is to share these stories and more information, the things that I didn't have 7 years ago when Ava was born and I couldn't find it. And boy, I'll go down swinging just trying to share information. And I'm so grateful that everyone comes on and does just exactly that, because what I do hear as a very common theme in every single one of them is exactly what you just said. Medicine from a holistic approach. We all have the skills, right? We have our expertise, and when we come together, then we reach, as I'm saying, we as a team, like Ava being part of it too, we reach, you know, her fullest potential wherever it is she wants to go, faster. And it's so exciting. And the puzzle that you're referring to, you know, we're all a piece of that. And when you, how about that time, it was a couple of years ago, when the shoes weren't working with her orthotics, and you just like went into your van and basically re-engineered a shoe within your, and then you said, in a couple of weeks, you know, we'll get the right one for this, but this should work for now. unbelievable. And then she was happier. So me at home, this puzzle piece, she's standing in her stander, she's more comfortable. And she was more excited to walk in her walker. I didn't know, because she was so little at the time, she wasn't able to express how uncomfortable she was. So that was huge. And talk about ingenuity, just no biggie, I'll just take them out to my van. And like I was like, wow, okay, fantastic, instant
We'll totally
gratification.
touch on that later, because that is quite a unique piece of how I ended up where I'm at today based on where I started.
We have to
We'll
talk about that.
let the people know
Let the people
just
know.
what creativity involves to get care to patients.
It's fascinating, and I know others will think so too. I just wish they got to see it in action. It's pretty cool. So you've been doing this for about 20 years. And when we were talking offline, you were giving me an explanation of the difference between orthotics and prosthetics. Would you mind
Sure.
just in case I'm not the only one that wanted to make sure I came to the party correct?
Yeah. So an orthotist is a person who would design some type of orthosis or orthotics. We kind of blend the terms together. The slang of an orthosis is a brace. So you may hear that be intertwined in there. An orthotist is somebody who's going to evaluate a patient, healthcare professional. We are usually certified in some manner and then licensed in certain states. So similar to your other healthcare professionals or physical therapists or occupational therapists that we talked about. The orthotist is designing something to support and help a body segment or joint perform better. We need to support what is there. We create something that's fit or custom made to fit this body part. Similarly to us are the prosthetists, who make prosthetic devices or prostheses. The prosthetist is someone who replaces this body segment that is gone from loss. So if there's a loss of an arm or a leg or a certain segment of the arm or the leg, the prosthetist works to replace that. So you become a better functioning individual. So that's the idea of the rehab part of the orthotist and the prosthetist.
Thank you so much. I can't be the only one.
So here's the interesting part. That was kind of described with like a clinical slant, right? We can practice clinically. The orthotist or prosthetist can practice clinical medicine to take care of a patient. But there's more to it. We talked about like product creation and all these things. This field is very wide. So if there is interest in, people would be like, I just don't have the feel that I want to practice medicine and take care of somebody. That's too much stress. I don't want to be relied upon to make that decision to help someone. What happens if I hurt them? However, this field needs engineers.
Yes.
Somebody needs to know the material science. The materials have changed over the years. Orthotics and prosthetics came back from, truly, think about this, like the Civil War. They were developed in Europe, in Germany over time. It was a trade that was handed down from families generation to generation. As you talked about collaboration and information sharing, this whole field has changed over the years into things that we're using carbon fiber, 3D technology, 3D CAD CAM to carve, to make. We're using 3D printers. These things weren't necessarily available to us before. Carbon fiber, they went into fancy jets that only one person would take. One entity had control of the carbon fiber market. No, now it's on cars. Now it's in healthcare. 3D printers, they were very expensive. They did really awesome things for things in aircraft, for things in cars. And now we have it in our field that we might be able to print parts. It takes an engineer to know the software to make it.
Yes.
Somebody's got to design the machine to do it, and somebody has to have the product within it to make it work. So you could have an orthotist or prosthetist. You could have an engineer. I need an engineer to make this stuff. I need an engineer to make the material. I need somebody to make the components smaller, stronger, lighter. That is on everybody's mind whatsoever. I'm going to give you a brace. What do you hate? It's heavy and it's hot. You have a prosthesis. What don't you like? It's hot, it's heavy, and I get tired by the end of the day. You want lighter, smaller, faster. You want technology. Computer chips are getting smaller. We can integrate them into prostheses. We can intertwine them into bracing now. So the field is wide open in terms of what it could be that you might choose to do. You have an interest in this, you could do engineering, you could do body science. If you know how the body works and moves better, or you're able to map it better, maybe you can tell the engineer, I need it to do this. Can you help it fix it? Can you make it do something different here? Maybe it doesn't need to be a solid piece of plastic anymore. Maybe we make it look like a spider web.
Yeah.
And it's still strong enough. So now it's lighter, it's cooler, and all that stuff. That is next. So I don't necessarily want to make you a solid brace anymore. 3D printers can now print it in a mesh.
What an exciting time in medicine. I keep saying this, and then, you know, some people come back and they're a little bit Debbie Downers because there's like things that are not working very well, you know, in other aspects. But right here, right now, you have me 1 foot out the door. I'm going to engineering school because I'm like, wait, I have ideas. That it's so exciting.
Yep.
And to know that you would make such a tremendous impact on another person's life is just.
That's why when somebody asks me if they're, hey, I'm kind of interested in orthotics or prosthetics, can you tell me more? Yeah, I can tell you what I do, but holy smokes, there are so many other things you can do within this field. So if you are asking because you are intrigued about helping someone or helping the body, or you usually have some type of family member, like something where it touches you internally, there are so many things now that you can do that can tie into the field of orthotics or prosthetics. It's unbelievable. Let's say that you're tied in that way too. You could be a teacher. You could teach orthotics and prosthetics. You could teach material science as it relates to orthotics and prosthetics. You can teach computer engineering and software to us now. There's an electronic medical record. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's how you design the 3D carver to carve it faster, better, lighter, different materials. I need somebody to print it for me. I can't step away in my practice of clinical medicine to go and reprogram the printer.
Right.
But I sure want that part to be smaller, lighter, and more functional because I can apply it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Come on, guys. Bring your big brains on over. We need them.
They're there every day.
Time.
So in that information sharing and that collaboration that you talk to, we don't like to hear about the problem, but you just can't be scared of it. The problem leads to better solutions.
As a solution.
You just have to be intrigued to help create or look for that better solution.
Yeah, that's how
out there.
100%. That, and you have to be fascinated by it and willing to deep dive into what the problem is. That's how I came up with LittleWins, was just interviewing as many families that would talk to me and starting with my story so that they felt comfortable enough to share theirs and say, you know, what are the most common pain points, and really delve deeper into that. And when you find a solution, and then you can, you know what I mean? Gosh, what else is there to me? So I'm fascinated by, because Rob, you never told me, how did you get into this field? Like other people have to wonder too, how do you get into this, especially 20 years ago? What you said right now, there's a lot of intrigue and all of the new innovations in the tech that you use that would bring a lot of more people into it. Tell me the journey.
Totally. I think this is going to drop into more like even into the high school realm, that people will learn about orthotics and prosthetics, because as it began in like a hand-me-down family type situation, we're talking about master's level college classes now. So it's pretty unbelievable. I stepped into this field in an indirect route. Didn't know that like in high school or college, like orthotics and prosthetics was in my future. What I did was I happened to study some undergraduate, like I got an undergraduate. In undergrad, I started to study like body movement and motion analysis through this department of kinesiology. Should I be a physical therapist? I don't know, but hey, this is intriguing. This guy's got motion tracking software. That's pretty cool. Let's see what that is. Finished my undergrad. The professor's like, are you still interested in this? Because I need to start a project studying children with cerebral palsy, and I need you to start, I need somebody to help me get this off the ground, studying their motion. Are you interested? Will you stick around for a year and help me get this project off the ground? Okay, yeah, that sounds pretty awesome. I'll do that. We get a master's degree, work through this project. That's great. Thank you very much. Did that. Find out that what I'm using is good technology, but I find out what the greatest technology in mapping the body was. Well, that happened to exist at Children's Memorial Hospital. They had it and they were going to use it to make clinical decisions. Oh my gosh, I got to get there and get into that.
Wow.
So as technology changes, right, you can map the body just with your cell phone now. You get clothes made and all this crazy stuff. Back then, think about it, almost original video games or the next step from original video games of like Super Mario. They put reflective markers on the body on a lycra suited person, and they would run through space and the cameras would pick up all that motion and you would digitize it to make football moves or basketball moves.
Right.
I used that on the body at Children's Memorial. So the Department of Orthopedic Surgery could make better decisions on how to clinically treat children. That was awesome. That was super cool. So this is like computer programming, body analysis, clinical decision making. This is really cool. That was great for a while, but then got introduced to these children walking through with braces on their body, or adults. What's that? That's pretty interesting. Start talking to people. And at the time, that was Maura Tobin Wicks and Bridget Driscoll. They were like, you know, this is orthotics. Would you be interested in this? And I'm like, yeah, I need to get my hands dirty. I need to do something different. And I'd like to get more involved in like the clinical treatment of a patient.
The
And they're like,
individualized care.
we could probably see you doing this. Why don't you come check this out? Saw it for a day and I'm like, send a page back then, pagers. I'm like, yeah, I'm interested. How do we do this? 24 hours.
Interesting.
24 hours. And then, okay, you're going to apply to orthotics school at Northwestern and you will come back here and be our resident and you will come and practice if you want to do that. I said, okay. Boom. Applied to orthotics school within the week. Went to orthotics school at Northwestern, came back to then, this is Lurie Children's, then Children's Memorial, did a residency and stayed for 14 years.
So what year was
children.
this when you sent the page saying I'm totally in?
Totally in 2002.
Fascinating.
2002. So I stepped into Children's Memorial in 1998 and stayed doing motion analysis for 4 years. In 2002, said, yeah, orthotics sounds super cool. I get to do that and work with you guys and take care of children and make them be better, more functional.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all in. Let's do this. I get my hands dirty. We get to make this. There was no 3D printer there. There was no carvers and CAD CAM. Like if it existed, it was very rudimentary. I saw the one printer that Northwestern had. It was laying down just a bead of plastic in the shape of the brace. That was super cool. Somebody had to program it to do that. Like that was groundbreaking that it even existed, that your mind could think of it and that your mind could create it. Yeah, we were using dental plaster, fiberglass. We were making a mess. This was a workshop. And then we came out with this final product and somebody functioned better because of it. That is awesome. That you said that before, like, wow, what does this really drive you to do? And that's it. If you can make someone smile more, just like you said, just by fixing a shoe and somebody works better, that's why you come back. That's what makes you smile at the end of the day. That's what makes you excited to go to sleep and wake back up refreshed to find a solution to the problem that was the day before.
Yep.
And sometimes they don't come quick. And that's what's frustrating. That frustrates parents. That frustrates patients. It's difficult when the solution isn't easy to come by or we have to work it in a stepwise manner. that's not fun for anybody. And it's more frustrating for the patient because it's more difficult for them to live and do what they want to do. And that's the hardest thing that I would have to say that is probably tax somebody in like clinical medicine, in orthotics or prosthetics, not being able to create and have that solution that's usable for the patient. I mean, it hurts. That
readily
doesn't feel good. Yeah.
Readily available.
But when you see someone happy because we put princesses on their braces, or we put
butterflies on Ava,
butterflies, or pink camouflage, or tattoos, or all kinds of crazy stuff, that's awesome. That's what we do, why we want to do it.
Can you give me an example of a time, because I'm just trying to get like a 360 kind of understanding of a time when the solution didn't come easy, and the reason for that?
Some of the hard ones are, let's just take scoliosis. It tends to usually afflict a teenage girl. You have a teenage girl, find out that she has scoliosis. That's one thing. Find out too that we have to treat it. We have to treat it with a brace, because we want this brace to slow that progression down. We may not be able to make it go away, but we can slow its progression so that it doesn't end up being surgery to straighten it. Because once your spine wants to curve, it starts to have a mind of its own, that it wants to keep doing it. It doesn't always love to be stacked, but what you have is, in a sense, a stack of dominoes. Or you're playing Jenga, or you're stacked. Your kids. Yeah,
for sure. And while they're growing too, right? Like especially while they're growing.
The column's getting bigger. The column is getting longer. The column has more force laid upon it, has more gravity effects on it. Once those dominoes kind of get pulled out of proportion, it starts to get hard to stack them back in together. So we make a brace to support that spinal column. Here's the difficulty.
She's a teenage girl. She doesn't want to wear this brace.
She doesn't want to wear it. That applies a part. We try to put some flowers on it, some butterflies, some tattoos. We have to make it cool. Let's say you have the most compliant patient wearing it all the time, having an understanding of getting max usage out of it. That curve may still progress.
Right.
That situation may progress towards surgery. So is that hard? Is that a failure? It depends how you look at it. Yeah, we didn't stop the body from going in the direction that it went, but it doesn't mean that we were going to be unsuccessful. We tried. They wore it all the time. We did everything we could do. Did I engineer it right? Did I make it right? Did I make it in the most comfortable way that I could so the patient would wear it? Who knows? Sometimes you just can't outsmart the body. It will tend to win down. You can't always win all these battles. Those are hard.
Well, and every single one, every body is different. And but you said, is that a failure? To me, I don't know if you were asking me, but I'm going to tell you, when you, like you said, and I know you well enough to know, you exhausted all of your resources and all of the different, you tried all the avenues. I think of failure as a very simple answer. Failure is not trying. Failure is just accepting that you may need surgery someday. I have, met a few people along my lifetime where they're like, it hurts to walk, or like my foot bothers me or whatever. But, I've just kind of, it's just part of who I am or something. A failure is not trying when these things are out there that could help you. And that's another important point, is I think a lot of people assume that orthotics and braces are specific to individuals with disabilities. But in a lot of cases, it's like I had a foot surgery and I had an orthotic for a while in my shoe, just on the one to help rehab it, don't you think? Am I the only one? But like for injuries and, aging, whatever.
That all applies. The aging population needs to have the joints are not in the condition that they were when they were 20 years old. The bones may not be, your muscle function may not be, we get tighter, things of all all those things happen, and you try to keep your physical activity at a level that you want it to be, and things get hurt.
Mhm.
That's exactly where an orthotist steps in. We can support your ankle. We try to make it as functional as possible, as light as possible. And it might be something as simple as that we put in your shoe.
Mhm.
And we just try to make the best solution. And then you'll hear me say that often, and you've heard me say this, like, I can do these things. Here's our plate. Here's our menu. We can
Mhm.
choose from many different things. This one does this, but it won't do that.
Mhm.
This other one's a little bit different than that other one, but we could run into some trouble here if we do this. What do you think is going to work best for her? What do you think is going to work best for you?
Mhm.
Both are great solutions, but what do you feel you might be most willing to use? And that's fine. And then I have people that are understanding it more and can help make that decision, and we can run with it. And there's other people that are like, I don't know this field. I don't know what the orthotist is. What do you, I met you 2 seconds ago. I found out orthotics 5 seconds after that. Like, I don't even get
Right.
this. I'm here
Right.
for you to tell me what will work best. Okay, you got it. Here's what's on my mind.
Yeah.
There still are all the choices, but we're going to work with this, and we're going to work with this because.
And try
Is
it
that,
out.
and,
Mhm.
and as you see me describe it, like, oh, man, the shoe isn't working. Something needs to change.
Yep.
How about we try this? Let's try this, and we'll see how it works.
Trial and
If
error.
we're
Yeah,
right,
we've done it.
we
Yeah.
run with it.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong, we will change it. And that's part of like the whole procedure of orthotics and prosthetics, that
Or
like,
life in general.
fit
Just
it.
trial and
We will
error.
make a decision, but it needs to be adjusted.
Mhm.
Use it, Rob. I run on this thing. It kind of hurts. I can walk on it. It feels fine. But when I run, something's not right. What can we do?
Yep.
We adjust it.
Yeah. And you guys are great at that. Not all doctors that, from my experience, have been that receptive and that agile, as you said, you spoke to earlier. You really are. Whenever I've said, this is kind of like poking her ankle a little bit, she's annoyed, you just come make that small adjustment and everybody's happy. But
Certainly.
I think that my understanding from just my own, like my foot surgery and different, just being in a human body alone and like your aches and pains and whatever, this alignment that starts, I don't know where you think it starts, but I think it starts at your feet, or that's what it feels like to me. If you're not in appropriate shoes, this is for all people, or if you need support, especially as you're growing, but even when you're older and your ankles to your knees, to your hips, to your shoulders, I mean, this is extremely critical for people to understand that tiny little ache that may start in your foot can just travel its way on up, because you start to move your body in ways that it shouldn't be moved, and then you have aches all over your body. Well, we don't have to do that, guys.
No.
There are options out there.
Uh-huh.
And the help is out there, so don't ignore those pains. And I think that's important to know.
That's good. That's what just ask a question.
Yeah.
And then it should be explained in simple terms. That's some of the best advice that I've ever gotten in clinical medicine, is that you have to explain it in simple terms.
Oh yeah.
If it doesn't make simple common sense, you don't have to worry about the details of why I picked the plastic I did and how it's made and what its like properties are. I'll worry about that. Or I let an engineer tell me what it is exactly is and how it will perform.
Mhm.
But look, this is going to help. If I make it out of this plastic, it's too soft. It won't support your body, or it'll break. If I use this plastic, it's too brittle. It's going to be too hard. You won't like it. Or if it's too brittle and you like to go and ski, or you like to sled, and that brace gets super cold and it's plastic.
Yeah.
Just think about really cold glass, and you put I'm going to have some tea, or you're going to put something hot in your really cold glass, it'll shatter.
Yeah.
Or take your brace that's really cold after you go sledding or doing something outside in a very cold environment, and you bring it inside, and you're taking off your boots and you're taking off your jacket, and you trip and you kind of stumble into your brace and you step on it. It's going to shatter.
It's going to shatter.
So those things matter. So
And you take them
Just-
all into account, which is really
just
what
kinda
that
think it
wow is
through.
for. Like, wow, you ask them, each individual person, what are the activities that you need this for most,
Mhm.
or where are and then factor all of that in. That's super cool, man.
And people get into things of needing like more than one thing. And I have patients that do that too. They're very high functioning.
Mhm.
They need this certain brace to perform this certain way for these activities. Okay. When I walk it, this is the one I walk in. When I do basically things of living a life, going to the store, this, that, or the other, I need the brace to do this for me. But hey, I like to garden. I like to kneel down. I like to crouch down. My brace won't bend with me,
Right.
but I need a brace to support me, but I need it to do a little less than what this one does when I walk. Might have to have two.
We'll adjust. Yeah. Or yeah,
Yeah.
have to. Exactly. But your
So,
practice is more family focused, right? Am I
Mhm.
wrong? You're more like children, adolescent, or?
Sure. I just from where I started, I was at Lurie Children's for a long, long time, and I've stayed in the clinical practice of children. I went into private practice about 5 years ago and stayed more pediatric focused.
Yeah.
The orthotist or the prosthetist is likely able to treat anybody in any body with whatever that dysfunction lies. We can go and support it, so we can apply that knowledge. But in general, I tend to treat pediatrics the most. That's the focus.
Well, I've been very lucky to have you because Ava goes through these growth spurts, like
Absolutely.
tremendous growth spurts. And that's when I just call you. I'm like, remember last week when her orthotics
Yeah.
were fitting perfect and she had like a half an inch left. And then this week, all of a sudden they don't fit. What happened? It's happened twice, and it's,
Yeah.
usually at these really cool times, it's just shy of when insurance would help me cover it.
It
I'm
depends.
not
But
laughing, I'm crying, but
we touched on some important things here. So
yeah.
that's why like critical evaluation is important. So the first thing you'll see me do when I see Ava is that she'll be remeasured.
Mhm.
And what does that mean? Like, we will look at her height, we will look at her weight, and then I measure her body or her legs in various different areas all over the place.
Mhm.
Well, if these things are different by a half inch or an inch or this many centimeters, that all matters. Like,
Yep.
it was created against a body that looked like this. The body is
Yep.
different. It's different in such a larger way that this no longer can be adjusted
Mhm.
to fit her. And that's what insurance wants. They want you to try and fix it and adjust it. Just don't throw it away. Can
Mhm.
it be tweaked to keep going? And that, yeah, absolutely. That's the first thing we're going to try to do. It's been working. Oh my gosh. No real problems, no concerns. Like, this is the one, this works great right now. Oh my gosh, let me just tinker on it a little bit to
Mhm.
keep this progress going.
Yep.
Then the body's going to grow, and now it won't fit, or her function has changed, and now we got to reevaluate what the plan is. Okay, definitely grown. These are too small. What's not working? What are we working on?
Mhm.
Do we stay the course? Do we have to evolve? Something like that. That's important. But you've talked about twice now coming over to my house, and we haven't talked about it yet.
Yeah,
So
when you come on over
this
to my house, and my house is a zoo, and you create solutions for my daughter while I'm making dinner and somebody's yelling at me and like dogs are running around and
I
we
have
just
to
look
have
at each other and we're like,
the puppy assistants are always welcome. They're here to help. One of the reasons I've gone into private practice is that I'm better able to bring care to patients. Most of us have involved in some type of clinical care wish to take care of another person in some way. Mine is in the biomechanics of the body. I have a mobile van. So in this private practice has grown and thrived on the fact that we have a orthotics or prosthetics workshop, right? We have to work with tools to manipulate the plastics and the metals and all these different materials. And you usually need a workshop. I need a lot of electricity. I need a lot of space to make and create this stuff. We miniized it. We took all this big equipment and we shopped it out and found all this small stuff, and we can fit it in the back of a minivan.
yeah, you did. And for
Okay.
the people listening, I have seen it. and it's genius. And it's so, you're like a genie in a bottle. You're like, I'll just take this out and I'll fix it, right? I'll just take it out to the van.
Awesome tools and you put it in the genie bottle on wheels.
Yeah.
And you drive those wheels to wherever the patient may be. And look at, there's need out there. The need hasn't changed. You wish that as the world evolved, that things become easier. Things may not become easier. People do not live in these centralized locations. Our people can live farther away because we have changed some things. The infrastructure has changed. People can live in different places. You can live all across the world and the population is expanding. It's not exactly shrinking. So there's more people out there. We have people getting older. We have more people having children. Like things are changing that we still have to care for the body. There are families with a single car. There are families with no car. There are families that rely on public transportation, all these things, but it might take them all the effort in the world to go to this doctor's appointment once a year. But at that doctor's appointment, they say you need a brace. Then to come back and get that brace now becomes a monumental task or almost an impossibility.
Yeah.
I have this mobility to then now bring the service to you completely. Are you a person who needs some type of bracing or support, but you cannot get out of your bed? I can come and evaluate you in your bed. I can deliver the product in your bed. I can go and adjust it in your bed. So the ability in this private practice to bring care to people in quite a unique way, instead of you coming in and calling my office and making an appointment and coming into my office, and we have
it's hell.
ways to bring
I did
care
that
to you.
before.
Yeah.
I did that before, and it was so hard. I'm not going to name any names, but it was so hard to get an appointment at first. And then when I got the appointment and she was, the molding, and she was measured and all of that, they said, okay, now make another appointment on your way out. I had 2 twin babies and I was pregnant, like 8 months. I was like, make another appointment, but the appointments that were available were weeks and weeks after when her braces would be available.
So that all that applies. We've touched on all that stuff. There's insurance that we get through, and that makes it difficult. So the insurance process isn't what it used to be. Things are more scrutinized. Coverage is more limited. And what we want to do is make sure that these things are a covered benefit, because orthotics and prosthetics tend not to be the most cost
and necessity though.
Yeah, and they can be expensive. That just means the insurance rules, we have to apply or play and abide by their rules that they ask of us. And they say, look, when it's over $500, we need to pre-authorize it. That's fine. That just happens to take a couple of weeks. So we lose a couple of weeks there. Do we think we're going to be right with that? Yeah. But there's many more contracts now. There's many more terms within these contracts. Now we become less certain. We used to know, oh, you just want us to pre-authorize it? No problem. Oh, don't worry about it. It'll get pre-authorized. We know the rules. The rules change all the time. The plans change all the time, that it takes some weeks to get an answer. We may not get a full answer. They may ask for more information. So when you make one appointment and you come back weeks later, that's a part of it. Plus we have to make it. Somebody's brain's got to be put to use to put this thing together. So let's talk about pandemic times.
I was just going to say, I mean, first of
all, supply chain disruption has had a major effect upon healthcare. And from my niche and from this thing of orthotics and prosthetics, it's raw material shortage. Plastics have become less available or completely not in supply. So if you can't get an electronic computer chip for your car, and they're stopping production of cars, I can't get it for your prosthesis.
Wait, can we just melt all the ones that I have left? Like because you can't just give Ava's orthotics to I mean, they're specific to her. Can't we just can we recycle that plastic? I'm dead serious. Is there a place for this?
We wish we could. You can't recycle. You can't recycle medical products.
I know, but don't tell me. What if we just melt it down and we just...
So perhaps this becomes in part of orthotics and prosthetics. You don't have to do clinical stuff. You don't have to do engineering, but you could be involved in advocacy.
Yes.
You can be a clinical advocate. You could be a legislative advocate.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is plastic that can be determined to not be biohazardous, cleaned in a certain way. This plastic is now, in a sense, let's say, not dirty. It can be recycled. This plastic is the best plastic to be recycled because it is very homogeneous. It's one specific type of polymer that if it was ground up, we could absolutely turn it into something else without a doubt. But it doesn't have a triangle on it, and it happens to be classified as it is a medical device.
Well, I think that's lame. I am a little bit busy with like all the other things, but I'll fight this too. I don't care. But if there's anybody out there who's listening, because I have them, I keep them all in little thingies. And of course it's leaf blowing season. Did you hear that? I'm sorry to everyone listening. Like now there's another leaf blower out there, but there's no reason, like you said, I mean, it's incredible plastic and it's exactly what you need
to do many different things with it. It could be all kinds of different things. If they're making shoes from this, you can do it. You can make a shirt from it. You can turn it into a pen. You could do it. You could turn it into glasses, all this stuff that people are getting creative on recycling products. This one of the simplest ideas of recycling those braces or something of that like design that we would make is that you apply to another person. So there are programs out there that take braces from the United States and we can take them to other countries to help people who are in need of getting a product to support their body part where they may not have the manufacturing, the access to the healthcare. So we can take those on certain mission trips that people do and we collect the braces for them and put it into the hands of the people that can go and try and have this brace be useful to someone else.
Where do I send them? I'll send them today. I'm no, why are you laughing? I'm
not
keep looking at them and I'm like, you know, first of all, would it
there's many different ways to do it.
Is it going to biodegrade? And like I can't imagine them in a landfill. And they're also like, you know, they help my daughter do so many things and they're so beautifully constructed. But so we're not going to toss them away. But I have them in like little plastic bins, all of them. I will send them.
I will find a way. So we will either take them in at our company and get them into the hands of the people that can do it. But
I'm going to fight this plastic thing because
let me research a little bit and I'll send you something that we can add to the podcast.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to have to do a follow-up. I have so many questions I didn't even get to ask you, but the last one for sure that I really want to cover because it's so important. I think, like you said in the beginning, a lot of people that I've met in clinics and just, you know, within this community assume that they're not going to be able to afford an ortho and they don't even go to the appointment. They are expensive, folks. Like but are there programs or do you have suggestions for those who maybe don't have insurance or
sure.
You know,
so there's all different ways about that. So one, they tend to have a cost associated with them because of the raw material that's used, right? So we're talking about plastics or hybrid materials that happen to be carbon fiber. These things, have to be produced. Now they're in short supply shortage, supply and demand. Now the price goes up. Now the supply chain is disrupted. It costs more to ship them. It costs more to produce them. Well, all you end up in the beginning is with a flat piece of plastic. Somebody's got to put that thing into the proper use and all that other stuff. When we didn't have third-party payers, that wouldn't, apply an extra cost. So things get the snowball gets big fast. And that tends to be where the cost is. Not that Rob decides that it should cost this much.
No. We are not saying that.
Right. Yeah, I know. But it's hard. You see this thing. I bring you this wonderful thing, whatever it is that we create. And you're like, how could it possibly get to that point? That's it. But from that, let's go back to how can we get a better way to get this covered when it is that you may or may not have insurance. Here's what it can be. I know that United Healthcare has a grant program.
They do.
United Healthcare has a grant program for those with private insurance that have some problem with it being covered. And they will ask about why it is that you can't, like the cost of it, you can't take care of the cost. Okay. It becomes cost prohibitive.
Mhm.
They're a grant program with United Healthcare. They will review your case and they will provide some funding for the braces, either in partial or in total. That's always very individual specific.
Right.
And I don't have the details about it per individual or like an example, because it's very individually driven based on what it is they need and what it is they need to cover.
And
Does that
how
help?
driven that individual is, because I got to tell you, I mean, you know, I don't have to tell you, but anyone else out there, I have fought insurance companies for years. I'm the most annoying person to insurance companies. I'm like, oh, you won't cover that? That's fine. I'll get another letter of medical necessity and another prescription, and I'll just fax it to you. Oh, you didn't get my fax? I'll send it 77 times in a row. And then I'll call you back to see if you got it. I don't care. But not everybody has the time or the fight
Yep.
in them.
Or just know that there is
children, or know their rights, or that's why we got to do this. We got
so there are ways to ask, because funny, one of our biggest like initiatives inside our company at Transcend is trying to find a way to make sure that people get what they need. And funding is one of them. If we can't work through their insurance company, we need to find another way to help them get what they need. And United Healthcare is one, and the Red Cross is another. I know that certain people have some luck with the Red Cross.
Okay.
Not always, but that's some. Now, again, being pandemic times, where we're at with the lack of funds and the resources of that, the lack of a dollar being transferred from one hand to another, it makes some of this funding more difficult. But in the past, those are the two that we use quite regularly. There's others depending on what the diagnosis might be.
But yeah, I
like
was just gonna say, there's got to be, if you look at like, you know, the local chapters of, you know, your CP Foundation or muscular dystrophy, or there's got to be
the Lions Club,
and then what's the other
Rotary
one?
Club. There's many things that there are people that are trying to help others in their community, and those do exist. There's also things like from head to toe, we brace. We can do, I do cranial remolding.
I know. That's why I was okay. That's why we have to do another one, because the cranial remolding thing, we're going to do another podcast. Okay. This is super important to talk about.
So there's cranial synostosis. So when they have to have surgery, there are programs that are related to organizations that fund those that can't get a helmet afterwards, after surgery. So sometimes it's very specific, diagnosis driven, and then organization driven on top of that. So there are ways, and the best thing that helps is the internet.
Yeah, I'm gonna do some more digging. I'm gonna include it in, because I'll put like a blog about our podcast, and I'll include these things. It's God, man, I really wished when I first learned that Ava, you know, had suffered a skull fracture in delivery and had this massive brain bleed. I started Googling. There was not a lot at the time that was very helpful in any way that I was like, how do I care for her? I'm game. Just like, tell me everything I need to know. There just wasn't a lot. Well, I won't let that happen to, you know, as to the best of my ability. But I'm going to give it, wait, is that my, do you hear that? Weird noise. Are you frozen?
Nope.
Oh,
good to go.
For a second, we were frozen. Okay. I'm going to give you my very first beta concept for LittleWins for this purpose. I really wanted to do almost like an Instagram profile picture of, could be an avatar, because if they're children, whatever, maybe I don't really love having my children's picture anywhere, but like an avatar of your child, and like a drop down box of what they need in a donation formation, like platform, and almost like a grocery list, like this child needs these compression socks, or it could be for you, just like these are the orthotics that they need. It's almost like a GoFundMe, but specific to orthotics. I'm going to send you the whole thing. This was like 3 years ago. It was my very first concept for LittleWins, but I know that there are people out there who want to purchase these things that would make a massive difference in someone else's lives. There's just not the platform for it. So they do lob their donations to Red Cross or whatever with
Yep.
cross their fingers and hope that it gets to like where it needs to go. No pun intended. But I think that could be really cool. We could build it on WordPress, super easy peasy. Just a thought. We're gonna explore that. But I gotta go pick Billy up from school.
Okay. Well, this is great.
Rob, thank you so much. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
for sharing your story, your experience, all of this super important information. And I can't wait to talk about cranial, say the fancy word.
Cranial orthoses. No, if we talk about needing surgery, cranial synostosis.
Yeah, yep.
We could get into that, but
I want to talk about
I appreciate the time that you gave me to talk about orthotics and prosthetics. I hope that people have a better understanding. And the reason that you talked about getting things different than they were when Ava was younger compared to where she's at today, communication.
Yeah.
That's what's changed. The art of communication. It isn't passed down to me in the textbook. We use means of podcasts, the internet. Information is so better disseminated to us that we start to work on others' ideas and implement them into ours. Communication is key.
Yeah, we got to work together and sharing your individual experiences and relating on those and building on all of that together. Yes.
Communication is key, and that's where this has changed.
Absolutely.
All right.
Awesome. All right, Rob, go team. Well, that was the very first podcast ever, apparently, on orthotics. Hopefully we crushed it. Whatever. We had to start somewhere, people. I think
Yep. We'll take it from here. We have more ideas.
Yeah, we do. Rock and roll. You're awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Okay.